Everything was fine. Then we had our first argument, and his first instinct was to, hey, we're moving too fast. Like, we should slow down. We should break up. And so, like, that's just always been, like, the issues that I found.
I didn't say we should break up. I don't think we're married. I don't think that's how that works.
Hey guys, welcome to Little Blackbird 91. Now this is a special one. I love this particular conversation because it really highlights what happens in a lot of relationships. This particular instance between Brittney and Will is classic avoidant versus avoidant perspective, and it really brings more emphasis on what I said in the very first video about how these two are going to react. How is she going to deal with rejection? In this scenario, there's a perceived rejection. Perceived meaning that it hasn't actually happened, but there's a perception of rejection. Okay, in the sense of they had sex, they had intimacy, and then what ended up happening was she felt like when he said let's slow down, she heard it as regret. She heard it as you don't want me no more. She heard it as you're distancing yourself. She heard it as him beginning to slip away from her, and then she began to be triggered, right? And now they're having this conversation. And I think it's intriguing on both perspectives, because when I talk about solutions in the end, you're going to recognize that whenever I talk about these scenarios, it's okay to tell us how you feel. And then at the end, we need to be asking more questions than making any judgments. The judgments are what are going to hurt your relationships. Okay. So let's talk about why Brittney was feeling rejected, and also why Will, in a scenario, I feel there's some areas that he can also improve on, because just because he didn't say much and didn't really speak much doesn't mean he was holding that much space. What I mean by that is he never really contributed towards his own feelings. I'm going to tell you where he could improve on to hopefully help your relationship as well, because maybe you've been through something similar and you've kind of missed each other in the communication. Okay, so make sure you guys, if you're new here, you're liking, you're sharing, you are subscribing to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're doing, bro. Okay, don't be here with me and not subscribing. Okay, subscribe to the channel and then hype the video up, because I'm telling you now, it's about to help you in the next few moments as well. Okay, all right. But remember, you got the minerals. You got the minerals. Stay hydrated. All right, let's get into this nasty work, fam. You get me? Let's get into this. Okay. Now, what was really intriguing about this conversation, because it's based around intimacy and then what happens after that, right? They have intimacy and then they have a condom situation where they didn't wear a condom. And I can tell you this for 100% free. I've been in this scenario and I was probably worse than Will. I said, listen, lock off the ting, fam. Lock off the ting, fam. Yeah, because we're doing something stupid now. When I was in Egypt, I was talking about this. I tell people a lot about this. It happened to me. And I just went cold, bro. I went cold and I just locked it off. I said, let's lock it off, bro. And if I'd even say it, the person had to come up to me and tell me what's going on with you. And I said, listen, let's lock it off, because I recognize we're doing something stupid here. And I completely emotionally distance myself. It's wrong. It's hurtful. And it's very much emotionally immature. And that's an area I had to start working on, which I didn't even realize I even had. But that's an area of immaturity, because you don't have the conversation because you're afraid of having a conversation, because you don't want the person to feel offended or hurt or feel like, that you don't like them anymore or don't necessarily want them. But in truly, it should be a conversation. So what am I talking about here between Will and Brittney? Well, Will and Brittney had this intimate moment and they're talking. And let's go to the very beginning of this conversation, because she puts us on game on what's happening with them. Okay.
That we were supposed to, which kind of worried me a little bit. But I think it became a thing. Like, I wasn't fixated on that. It became a thing when his reaction was like, hey, I see that this is worrying you. Like, maybe we shouldn't do this again.
Okay, so Will did quite well here. He had a conversation and said, look, I can see it's worrying you. Let's not do this again. But what's really intriguing about it, and why I said that Will also is acting in a particular way, which is interesting, is that he doesn't say that's what he wants to do. He's reacting to what she's reacting to. And this is such a powerful thing that happens to a lot of people. Let me give you an example, right? We have okay, that's not so weak, because I don't want to be saying you and me in a band screen, but let's say you and your partner have sex, right? And you as an individual, okay, you may still want to have sex, but because you're seeing their reaction, you're saying, let's slow it down and let's stop the sex. Actually, what you don't recognize is your discomfort for their feelings is making you react and say what actually isn't necessarily your position. Because what Will didn't say is, I want to slow down. What he said is, maybe we should slow down. He made it as a suggestion as a cohort group, but actually, what was his perspective? Do you want to slow down, Will, or nah? Now you may think to yourself, right, that's not much of, why are you being so finicky about and picky about that? Well, you're going to see in the next episode when I do another breakdown that he doesn't know how to identify how he feels. And a lot of avoidant people don't know how they actually feel because they don't take the time to address how they actually feel. And so they start projecting, okay, in order to evade and to deflect away from rejection. Where's the rejection? Well, the rejection also here, or the abandonment here, can also be the fact that her reaction, he may be reading it in a particular way too, right? He may be reading her reaction as being, okay, she's doing a bit too much. I need to kind of like play the cool character or play a role which kind of just, is emotionless. Because you see, being emotionally regulated doesn't mean you have no emotions. It means you're able to deal with stressful situations, okay? And you're still able to put across what you feel, right? So the suggestion wasn't what he felt. Suggestion was maybe we should slow down. And in that space, rather than saying, hey, I personally want us to slow down because I feel like we're doing this. No, he reacted on what she was reacting on. Again, not necessarily wrong, but it's more about being focused on self. How do I feel after that sex moment? You know what? I feel like in this moment, you're reacting in a particular way. What's going on with you? This would have been a more appropriate one. What's happening to you? I can see you're kind of spiraling a little bit. What's going on with you? Right? I can see that you've been a bit panicky. So because she panicked, he then reacted and then spoke for them instead of speaking for himself. Do you see where the problem is? Okay. So let's listen a bit more.
Things felt weird after that. And so I thought like, oh, is this something that he's regretting? And that was just like a weird feeling for me.
Now notice also, she too also is reacting to what he's reacting to. And this is what happens to a lot of couples on a hamster wheel. They react to what you're reacting to, my reaction is now reacting to your reaction, okay? In this scenario, what ends up happening is she then sees his response and goes, actually, okay, he's acting a bit weird. Now I feel weird, right? And all that's happening is a vacuum of conversation that's not happening. What's happening is we're reacting to what they're reacting to without having a conversation and asking more questions. I need to find out what's going on with you. Okay, I can see that you're probably moving a bit distant from my perspective. Okay, what's going on? I can see that you're moving a bit distant. Any particular reason why? Right? And so that the person has the opportunity to then also contribute. Right? And we give them space and time to be able to also respond. But she immediately goes into, it doesn't feel right. And she can't even name what she feels. She says it doesn't feel right. There's an emotion she feels, but she can't name it, the feeling. All she knows is that it doesn't feel right. And this is what's going to cause more of the argument or the distress, because we're not talking, we're allowing vacuums to exist, which means we can then begin to formulate our own narrative and our own story. Okay?
I didn't like it.
I was a little confused after our conversation last night in regards to exactly what the best way for us was to carry along our evening and our night. So after we got closer, I felt almost responsible for you.
Now, he mentioned something really powerful here. He says after her reaction, he felt responsible for how she felt. Now, that doesn't sound like a big thing, but it actually is a big thing, because now he's over-identifying with her emotions, right? And he's saying, I feel responsible for your feelings. We're not supposed to. You can only be responsible for your feelings. This tells me again that there's a lack of being centered on self. And there's too much focus on the other person, which is more of an anxious trait. But I've already seen that he's got avoidant traits. So he's probably a fearful avoidant. And we're seeing more of her dismissiveness coming through, right? Her fear of rejection, his fear of abandonment, betrayal, or rejection. Don't be fooled by his coolness. He's not that cool. That's why he's taking the reactions that that's why he's taking the actions that he's taken. Why is he why do he feel responsible for her feelings? Now, many of you are probably saying, I feel the same way too. Yeah, you need to be centered on your emotions, right? You need to be centered on how you feel. Notice he hasn't said how he actually felt. And I'm not talking about him being centered about her emotions. I'm talking about centering on yourself and be like, okay, this is how I feel about the scenario. These are my emotions. And she does the exact same thing, but in a very different way. And we'll break that down a bit more.
Feeling bad, and I didn't really know how to carry that.
It's like we got closer, and then the immediate, from my perspective, your immediate response was like, hey, like, slow down, like, maybe we shouldn't do that, you know?
So again, what's happened is a vacuum. So in a vacuum, when I mean vacuum, the words have not been said, right? So he says about, being, responsible for her feelings. And then she said, okay, well, let me explain my feelings at, when you said slow down, okay, hey, maybe we should slow down, that's when she reacted. Because what happened was, the scenario was, I think they had sex without condom, right? It's now got to a point she's like, damn, we haven't had sex without condom. Maybe she's saying things out loud. And in that space, he goes, okay, well, then maybe we should slow it down, right? Rather than just saying, hey, look, it's going to be okay. It's cool. We'll wear a condom next time, blah, 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 blah. He's also just immediately pulled back. He doesn't recognize that. By him saying slow down, he's pulling back. And she recognizes a pullback. But instead of her, you know, having this conversation in the moment, she also too feels rejected. She feels like da-da-da. And now she's also going to react to his reaction. And this is what's going to cause the distance between the two of them and that eerie feeling they're going to have.
And for me, that's like not what I wanted to hear from my husband. I wanted to hear more of, hey, it's okay. Like, I don't regret anything.
So now what she's actually saying, and very fair play to her as well, she's actually saying what she actually wanted, which is, I wanted reassurance. That's what you're really saying. I wanted reassurance in that moment, because in that moment, I felt like, you know, alone in this situation. That doesn't mean that's necessarily the truth, because how you feel doesn't mean it's the truth. That's how you felt about scenario. I felt alone in this situation, and I had a panic, and really I wanted you to be sturdy. That's the truth. You wanted him to be sturdy. You wanted him to be reassuring. You wanted him to be comforting. You wanted to have a safe place to land for yourself, which is understandable, again. But because he doesn't say that and he says, let's slow it down, you've interpreted it as, instead of asking another question, Brittney hasn't asked another question. Hey, why do you want to slow it down? That's not what I'm asking for. I don't want it to slow down, right? What I want is reassurance. But she doesn't say that in the moment. That's why she said it in the bed now. And so now they're having this conversation post, because really and truly they should have this conversation during.
That happened, like, we're here, we're together, we're happy, like, whatever happens, like, we can work on that together. And like, that didn't happen. I feel like there was like
so now, because that didn't happen, she feels like he's pulling away, but at the same time she's also pulling away, right? Like, she's also, because of the feeling of rejection, she also too pulls away from the scenario. And so this is what causes what we call the emotional distance between two avoidants. They start reading each other's behaviors as a form of rejection or abandonment. And that triggers behaviors that they start creating emotional distance in your relationship. So now you feel further away, and it's all because people are not telling the truth about how they actually feel about a scenario. Let's listen a bit more.
regret and then distance. And like, that triggered me. I just don't do well when I feel like people are trying to like pull away, for example.
So it's interesting because she already associates or assigns that him saying slow down is a pull away, rather than asking him, are you pulling away? Is this your way of pulling away? She assumes he's pulling away, right? Rather than giving him the opportunity to be able to also articulate his thought process. He may be pulling away, but you still got to ask him or at least if you're saying you're pulling away, what's the reason why you're pulling away? We don't know why he said slow down. You just know that he said slow down, and you feel like he regretted it. You've already assigned him and labeled him as having certain feelings and thoughts. You don't know. You can't mind read, but she's mind reading now. And this is what a lot of people who have an insecure attachment, anxious, dismissive, and fearful avoidant tend to do. They start mind reading. And I'm not saying you're necessarily even wrong, but you can't mind read. So you actually should be asking them rather than judging the situation, which is going to create more of the emotional distance and cause the other person to be triggered because now they feel like they're being judged. You don't want to do that. Okay? All right? Give them the opportunity.
My ex, we were together and everything was fine. And we had our first argument, and his first instinct was to, hey, we're moving too fast. Like, we should slow down. We should break up.
So now we have a background as to why she is feeling this way. She's feeling this way because there is backlog of other traumas and other experiences where she has experienced somebody pulling away. So in her head, it is truthful that when someone says slow it down or it's about to bring the end of the relationship, and she doesn't want it to end. That's the truth, and that's real, right? That's real, but you can't assign that to him because that's not necessarily what he may be doing. So you have to ask the question. But many of us haven't been taught that because, again, we've grown up in households where we've been judged. So we judge other people. It needs to be a question. Hey, in my past, let me share something with you. In my past, I've experienced this. So when I see that, I assume that's what you're doing. But is that what you're doing? That's a question. I'm not making a statement, and I'm not making a judgment on you yet. I'm still asking a question. That's how I feel about it. That's what I've seen. That's what I've witnessed. But is that what you're saying? Is that what you're doing? So they have an opportunity to also respond. It's also very powerful. It's needed. It's very much needed.
And so like that's just always been like the issues that I found.
I didn't say we should break up. I don't think, we're married. I don't think that's how that works.
And so like that's just always been like the issues that I found.
So as you said, obviously I'm not trying to break up with you. That's not what I'm trying to do. Again, we still don't actually know his thought process. Slow it down for what? Because she was panicking, but what was going through your head? So because we've not seen, now we've not invited him into the conversation. We've told him how he felt and everything. We've not invited him into the conversation. So we've got a bit more understanding of her background, of why she did it. Why did he want to slow it down? What has he experienced that made him say, as a solution, slow it down here, rather than just saying, hey, look, stop panicking. It's cool. I got your back on this, man. We gonna work this out, don't worry, right? Like, why is it that he went to that slow down? We don't know, because she hasn't asked. And because obviously right now she's telling us how she felt. But again, it goes back to that point.
I mean, this is, again, only a few days. I'm still figuring out how you traditionally resolve certain things. And you're investing emotion and feelings into something, which is frightening. I mean, any relationship you start, you never actually know how that's going to go. Especially after everything that transpired. Maybe let's just take our time with that.
So he says, obviously, with everything that's transpired, maybe we should just take our time a bit. Wearing a condom doesn't require you to slow it down. Slowing it down usually is an emotional distance tactic. So why is he going straight to slow it down? You're enjoying sex. You're married. You're allowed to have sex as much as you want to. So why are we running to slow it down? It's because there's discomfort in the scenario. He's trying to evade the harder aspect of the situation, which is, hey, I still want to have sex. I still enjoy sex. Look, we just need to wear a condom, right? Or my suggestion is we wear a condom, and so that we don't have to have these conversations. But instead, we're running to slow it down. Is that what you want? Is that what you? So if it is slow it down, and we're because you want to avoid that scenario, which is the scenario of we haven't had, the thingy. Okay, cool. Why again? The other aspect. Maybe we're going too quickly. We haven't got to know each other emotionally to understand how we flow. Okay. Suggest that then as your personal thing. Look, we need to slow it down because for me, I want to get to know you a bit more better. I want to understand you, and then we can enjoy this aspect of things. Because it does sound like you got regret, and that's okay if you got regret. If you got regret in the sense of maybe, look, I haven't got to know you yet, so I want to know you on a deeper level rather than just having sex with you. Then say that again. Own it. Because if you don't own it, what's going to happen is it feels like you're about to do the disowning, and that may not be your case. So this is a really classic example of people not taking accountability for their own actions or their own feelings, and then kind of pushing it onto others. So here's a solution: slow the heck down if you're gonna do that, but make sure you own what you want to own, your own feelings, okay? And ask more questions than making judgments. My boyfriend doesn't love me. He's about to leave me. Stop making those judgments and stop telling those stories to yourself, and actually start asking, what is it for you? For me, I'm feeling this, but what is it for you? So that I understand. Hey, I want reassurance in this scenario. I can't lie to you. I'm scared. I want reassurance. Tell me what you want, right? Tell them what you want. Be assertive with it, okay? All right? So that's my points there, man. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notifications of the uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. We'll see you again soon. Don't forget to hype the video up as well. We appreciate you. We're signing out.
Cool.